Okay. We will call our regular city council meeting for July 11th, 2017 to order. All council members are present, and we will ask Joel, who put in all these beautiful devices, as you can see, to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You do labor negotiations. You just say we didn't do anything in labor negotiations. We will start with our closed session. Number one is labor negotiations pursuant to Government Code Section 54957A, agency designation for the ambulance.
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor. The council provided confidential direction to their labor negotiators, and that's the extent of the report.
Okay. And we go to item number 2, which is Public Employee Performance Review, Government Section Code 54957, Title City Administrator, and I will turn to our Vice Mayor, Meg Tyson.
I just want to remind the public that we've been going through a formal process to evaluate Chip Rarick, our city administrator. This process was led by a consultant from MRG who helped us develop several questionnaires and process to do this as a more formal process. Wanted to let you know that besides the city council, Chip was also reviewed by his executive team, and when we were given feedback by that, he also did a self-evaluation that we were able to take a look at. So through this process, we have finished the evaluation, and we have realized that Chip has done a highly competent job of leading this city in the last few months, given the situation it was in when he came on board. So we appreciate that. We really appreciate his depth and breadth of understanding Carmel's needs, and which is a key factor to his success. The nice thing is this evaluation tool will be able to be used year to year. And we're expecting that the next time we do Chip's evaluation, we won't need the consultant, but it's something we can do in-house with the help of our human resource person. And the other great thing that came of this was that we also have a tool to evaluate the city attorney. So the previous city council, in particular Victoria Beach, and I were in charge of developing and selecting the consultant to help us with this process. And we were very pleased with how it came out. Chip was very pleased with how it developed also. So we'll probably be coming back in August for a potential change to Chip's contract, and we'll be doing that publicly then.
Thank you so much, Carrie. And item number 3 is Public Employment Code Section, again, 54957, City Attorney. There was no discussion on that item. We will move on to extraordinary business, introduction of new staff members from our Public Works Director. Chip.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council. I'm really honored and pleased to introduce to you, council, and to the public and residents and business community, Bob Harari, who's our new Public Works Director. He's been here, I think today's, is this your 3rd week or your 3rd week? So it's 12 days. And
Last one. He was off one day.
He was off 11 days. 11 days, thank you. Bob comes to us with a wealth of professional experience. He's a civil engineer, licensed civil engineer. He told me the story when I knew him in a previous position, that he finished his work in university at Arizona State on a Friday. He was recently married, and on Monday he started his career in public service. And he's 2 more days. He's been in that ever since. Bob went through a competitive process. and was desirous from coming over here. Two of his highest profile projects in his former city, the city of Monterey, was the $61 million, I can't even say it, conference center remodel, and then the roundabout, the Holman Highway roundabout, which is about done and about to open. Again, Bob has just an incredible wealth of knowledge in implementation of capital projects, the running of multiple departments, ops departments in public works, facilities, vehicles, and everything in between. He's already come to me with a long list of opportunities to improve our operations and a whole bunch of opportunities to move the ball forward. Like me, he's from the East Coast, and he leans very far forward, and you'll see him here at our special events, at weed pulls, when people are here on the weekend. I think, again, he's just an amazing addition to what is already a very excellent executive team. So I'm honored to have him on our team, and I'd like you to get to know him and meet him, and again, he's here for the public and here for the residents. So that concludes my comments, Mr. Mayor.
Bob, it's a pleasure. We'll welcome you on board, and thank you for coming to the 4th of July. I know we introduced you to a lot of people, and you got your ear pulled in every different direction the first 5 minutes. So thank you for stepping up. We really look forward to working with you.
Appreciate the kind words, Mr. Preferred, and I'm doing my very best each and every day here. And it's a great honor to serve your community and your community.
Thank you, Bob. Mark Weiner. Oh, he's the first one to use our new mic. How about that?
So I'm glad to introduce our new senior planner, Marty Waffle. Marty joined the city about 2 weeks ago, and Marty has a lot of experience in planning. She worked for 16 years for the city of Dublin, California as a planner. She has a master's degree in planning from UC Irvine, and she's from the Bay Area. And I'll just say, and working with Marty before she came to Carmel, and really, learning why she wanted to come here, she was interested in working for a smaller city such as Carmel, where you get to really know the community, get to know the people in town. And also, she thought Carmel was a special place, and she was really excited about coming on board and being part of our team, helping preserve city character and historic preservation as well. So those are some of the reasons she's here. I think she's going to be a really great asset to the city, and I'm really happy to introduce Marty Waffle.
Welcome on board, Marnie. Public appearances. Members of the public are entitled to speak on matters on municipal concern not on the agenda during the public appearances. Each person's comment should be limited to 3 minutes or otherwise established by the City Council. We ask that you please give your name, first and last name. It's helpful for our city clerk. Is there anybody that would like to speak today?
Hi, Steve. It's pretty exciting to try out the new microphone here. Council member staff, Barbara Livingston. I just want to congratulate city staff, principally Janet Bombard, Lori and Margie, for the wonderful job they did putting on the 4th of July picnic in the park. And of course to the Carmel Community Activity and Cultural Commissioners for their leadership in the new format, which I thought was terrific. It worked really, really well to have the food on Mission Street, and the shape and the size of it was just perfect, allowing lots of fun in the park for dancing and socializing. And so it was really great. So congratulations to everyone.
Thank you, Barbara. Anybody else?
Go ahead.
I like to use this microphone. Is it good?
Yeah, you can grab it. If you could just face us when you speak into it.
Hello, my name is Shalon Hagin. For those of you that do not know me, I am in present litigation with the city of Carmel-by-the-Sea. I am suing them for violation of my city rights. And I came here today, I wanted to ask you, have you ever asked Carmel why they do not list the amount that Hurley and Associates, which is the law firm that's representing them in our lawsuit, why they are not fiscally accountable for what they've spent on the numerous attorneys they have had over the last 3 years fighting me on a case that they're not going to win. I wonder why nobody asks the thousands of dollars and thousands upon dollars that they have spent. And and the fact that even if their insurance company does pick it up, what happens? They've had so many lawsuits resulting from the Stillwell administration, and by the way, I am the last of the Mohegans. What does that mean for your insurance cost, and what will that high cost of litigation result in for the taxpayers? Have you ever asked these people what their affirmative stance is on fighting me in a court of law? I would like to remind you that I am the recipient of the Employee of the Month award when I worked for this city, because they gave me that because I was their employee and because I did a fantastic job. If you will remember, I had the most well-attended 4th of July event ever in the history of Carmel-by-the-Sea. I'm sure many of you were there and you're familiar with my works. Also, I wanted to ask you, are you aware that I have done everything in my power in the last 3 years to settle this ridiculous lawsuit with Carmel-by-the-Sea, and to no avail? I would encourage you to do, for you to encourage them to do a wellness check with Hurley and Associates, because that's rather ridiculous. If you will recall the original amount they offered me and the original amount that I countered back to. I also would like to applaud Carmel-by-the-Sea for finally getting my attorney's name right. His name is not Mr. Rodriguez. After all, it's Mr. Gonzalez. Again, going to show their lack of cultural competency. And finally, I wanted to let you know that thank you for doing the work for me when you hired your very own consultants, and they cited the #1 flaw with Carmel-by-the-Sea as being lack of cultural competency. Bingo, exactly what I'm suing you for. And finally, if you will note what happened to me when I came into this meeting, I was singled out for doing a peaceful protest, and I was told I needed to behave myself by Chief Tomasi, whom I've never had a beef with until now. Please do not instruct the black woman that is suing you for racism for me to behave myself. It is part of my civil rights for me to be able to protest
Thank you, Shalon.
peacefully. Thank you. And again, my name is not Shalon. You address me by Miss Payton. We are not friends, Mayor Dallas. I give you your due respect. You do the same.
Thank you. Anybody else wishing to speak?
Do I have to follow that? Anyways, I want to thank Chip and City Council and our Mayor of Color that we for July 4th. I'm one of the board members for the Carmel Youth Center, and given the opportunity that we're able to sell hamburgers was a roaring success. We completely sold out. I want to thank Cisco, one of our problem companies that come in and bring their trucks in here every day, but they did go ahead and provide all the food to us for free. And so they wanted to show that they do respect our rules and laws. And, you know. Anyways, Andy Bryant gave us the t-shirt from Fashion Streaks, and there were a lot of people that stepped up to the plate, and we really appreciate the help that we so dearly need. And we did a great job, and thank you very much.
You want to put your name in for the record?
Oh, Kenneth Spilfo. And I want to thank your staff they did a terrific job. Thank you. Bye.
I can't ask.
Yeah, sure.
Can you tell how much you raised for the youth center? Do you know that
yeah.
number yet?
Well, we sold approximately 500 hamburgers at $5 a piece. We gave shirts for all kids under 18. We're still waiting for our tip money from Monterey Fire, which they said they were going to give us, about quite a few days ago. And but other than that, I think it was close to 4,000. We had some learning curves. We weren't dealing with skilled cooks. And what's interesting is, I don't know if I'm going to be. The grill that we rented was terrible. So we were producing hockey pucks at first. Ron was having trouble handling The
Dr.
hockey,
Chapman,
yeah.
actually.
Yes, Dr. Chapman. And, but what we ended up doing is we were cooking the burgers at Afina's and Flaherty's and running them down the street. And then we got way ahead after that. And so we really had a good time at it. Thank you.
Yes.
My name's Lauren Banner, and I am on the CRA board and run the beach cleanup. And in gratitude for you all, we have a gift for everyone that I will hand out. And two are going also to Ashley and to the Pine Cone for putting in our, Mary, sorry, for putting in the announcements for us. And I'd like to say the beach actually this summer looks much better. I don't know whether it's because Highway 1 is closed, whether it's because we have now information tents to the tourists asking them to pick up, or the city is picking up more. I don't know what it is, but it's looking better, and I'm really happy about that. So here's a Lovers of Carmel Beach hat, which is the new name for each one of you. There you go.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Oh, we'll get you one. We'll get one for Dawn. Just for an hour. Maybe an hour and a half. Thank you so much. Is there anybody else wishing to speak? Mr. Kreitman, Richard.
Richard Kreitman. So following on that the beach is getting cleaner, cigarette butts downtown. We didn't used to have this problem. I mean, I've been on the corner of Dolores and 6 now for 10 years. And it's on the street, in the cutouts, around the benches. We're starting to see more and more cigarette butts. And I know from observation that most of them come from the employees of several businesses, not just the cosmetics businesses. There are other employees, there are other businesses in town who employees smoke, and they have every right to smoke. I think we should designate an area for them. And I don't know, other than having a quiet and friendly conversation, perhaps Chip or Chief Tomasi, just to ask these businesses and the owners of these businesses who smoke, and they're all concentrated around that Dolores and 6 location, though some are down on Ocean, to please not throw their cigarette butts on the street, and if they continue to cite them. So it's just something, and what happens is when they throw their butts, it gives visitors license. It's like, oh, people throw their butts here. So our visitors who smoke then toss their cigarette butts on the street. And as I say, approach it in a friendly manner to begin with, and then follow up from there. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Richard. And at least one of the business owners are here, so I think he heard you kind of loud and clear, I hope. Anybody else wishing to speak on any matters, please?
This is kind of a follow-up on...
If you could just state your name for the record.
My name is Dan Haren. This is a follow-up on the last gentleman. I had an incident last night where I was in the Court of the Golden Bough, and there were people drinking heavily behind the candy shop. And as I was walking by, I noticed they were throwing their cigarette butts all over the place. I didn't say anything until I saw one of them throw a cigarette butt in the fountain. And then I said, please don't throw your cigarettes in the fountain. We have an ashtray right here by the doorway, and you can use that. Well, at that point, I was attacked by one of the gentlemen who, I wasn't attacked, but he came running up to me, straight up to my face, and said, "Do you know who I am?" And I said, I have no idea. But then he called the police, and the police came. The police came and contacted me after a long conversation with them. And what the gentleman told the police, I don't know if I can actually say, but he said that I had a racist comment that I used against him, saying something horrible, which wasn't true. And so the police said that if I did use those words against him, it was a racist slur, that I would be arrested, etc. Well, there is a big cigarette problem where I live, and I did not say anything like that. And so anyway, we do have a big cigarette problem. And the fact that I was trying to keep them from throwing them in the fountain led to the police actually contacting me and nearly giving me a ticket. So that's all I have to say about it. The cigarette problems are big. We've had a fire on my roof from a cigarette where they almost burned down the building that they occupy. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Anybody else wishing to speak? Okay, seeing none, we will move along to announcements. And announcements from council members. Councilmember Richards.
Yeah, I'd just like to take this time to say that this weekend, Christine, my girlfriend, and I went down to Big Sur, and I encourage anybody that can get down there right now. It's a pretty special time to get there. You park at Pfeiffer, hike up a little trail. It drops you off kind of where the Shell station is on Highway 1, and you can either take a shuttle all the way down to Nepenthe, or you could walk, but it's really a special time to be on Highway 1 without traffic. It's kind of a neat thing to do.
Thank you. Councilmember Tice. Councilmember Ramers.
We have new machine up here. I want to also thank the staff and all the volunteers and all of the groups who worked on 4th of July. It was really super. You've already heard that from others, but it was first on my list as well. And then I wanted also to say that I attended the League of California Cities meeting in Monterey workshop on June 30th. There was a one-day workshop on financial responsibilities of council members in overseeing and being fiscally responsible for the finances. So I'm going to be continuing to take a really good look, but I'm beginning to understand more and more. And I will share with you this brochure that's been published for some time now was put together by Don Goodhue, chairman of the Planning Commission. And it was this brochure and another idea that came as a gift or to celebrate the centennial. Each commission was asked to do something. So this is the brochure that Don put together. And then he and Keith Patterson and I worked on another bit of information, and it's entitled The Quirky Codes. Well, it says, well-loved and here to stay, quirky codes of Carmel-by-the-Sea. And I actually did read the municipal code and take out things. I had several pages, but fortunately, Keith and Don helped edit it. So that is now finished, and it's going inside of this. And others who helped with that to help edit it, Sue McLeod helped. And Phil Bohe, if you read the Herald, he was kind enough to take a look at it and add a little spice and some fun to the language as well. So that's outside in the hallway here, and encourage you to take a look. It should bring a smile, and it also has some very good information that most of us may not really know our codes in Carmel. The last is that I wanted to recognize the staff, the ad hoc committee who worked with the Sunset Board, and I wanted to also congratulate the Sunset Board as well as working with the ad hoc committee here of Carrie and Carolyn and Chip in getting to the contract for the Sunset Center and the Forest Theater. We approved it last month, and I didn't really say much about it. I just wanted to highlight it as a wonderful accomplishment from all of those working on it and bringing it about, and I wanted to thank them all for that. Thank you. That's it. Mm-hmm.
There, turn that on. I'd like to report that MST is rolling out an advertising campaign very soon about a new transit app that you'll be able to find out where the buses are in real time if people are waiting at bus stops. And we'll be seeing, I believe they'll be putting up a sign at our new bus shelter with a number and how to text to find out when the bus will be arriving at that numbered bus shelter. It's a pretty cool system. I already have the app on my phone, and so they're starting to unveil it and advertise it now, especially with kids coming back to school. So it's a new feature that people will be able to tell, when you get tired of waiting for a bus, you'll be able to tell where it is and how soon it's going to get there. So I think that's a pretty nice tool. And I too attended a League of California Cities Conference and Jan's report, my report, are in the council packet. And I attended the session on leadership, and it was a worthwhile day. Really appreciate it. And my report's in the packet. Thank you.
And I just wanted to thank all the volunteers for the 4th of July, all the nonprofits, our staff, our senior staff that all showed up, and my fellow council members. It was a great event, and it was a great community that we all live in, and it's just wonderful to be a part of it and have shown the teamwork that besides all of us here and all of our staff coming together, and then all the visitors as well as all of the residents all working together. So it's wonderful to have that. So thank you very much for pulling off a great 4th of July. And now we will turn on to the city administrator.
Yes, and I do, for a change, have several announcements, Mr. Mayor and Council. I too wanted to thank all the volunteers and the community groups who put so much effort into our Independence Day celebration. I thought it was just an amazing event. The staff did a wonderful job as well. Everyone pitched in to make it a wonderful event. We're going to have a post-mortem, so we're going to talk about what worked and what didn't work. And we'll probably invite a council member or two to that meeting, and then we can work with the groups for next year to make sure that if there's fine-tuning that needs to be done, we'll be prepared to do that. So that was number one. If you are watching this broadcast on Comcast Channel 28, either now or on Sunday morning, please give us a call at City Hall, 620-2000. We want to get your feedback. We want to see how the transmission is. As we're looking at transmission options right now, we want to see how that feed is and what your observations are, please. The mayor asked me to talk about Car Week, affectionately known as Holy Week for car aficionados, which is August 13th, so about a month from now. This year, as with the last decade, all Car Week events will be coordinated by Chief Tomasi and his staff in the police department. So he is finishing the operations plan for that week. We're working with our partners at the CVB and Visit Carmel to ensure that and the chamber, I apologize, to make sure that residents have information about when the events are, driving challenges for the week and the days. And so we'll get all that information out well in advance of the actual event. And we've already reached out to the event organizers. Again, we've got events here in the village on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday of that week. And again, Chief Tomasi and the folks that'll be working with and for him are already doing the outreach and education on that. Lastly, from Mr. Harari's shop, we're finishing our annual sidewalk replacement. The southeast corner of San Carlos and 8th is being done now, and of course we'll come back with a new CIP with a new list of projects for you next year. And then we've just recently beginning the storm drain repair. Remember, this was the repair that you approved last month at Hunip Road 5th. This is the collapsed storm drain, and so that's getting going as well. So that concludes my comments, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you so much. We will turn to the consent agenda. All consent items are routine in nature and do not require discussion or independent actions. Members of the council, board, or commissions, or the public may ask any item to be pulled for consideration of individual purposes by council, board, or member of the public. Unless done so, one motion may be used to adopt all recommendations, and I will turn to Chip to read all 19 of them.
Yes, it's actually 19 less 4. We've got a resolution authorizing me to execute an agreement for the purchase of our third license plate recognition system. And again, this is the LPR that will go on to the smart car, which Chief Tomasi bought. And then we'll have 2 of these LPR systems on the Go4, the little 3-wheeled trikes that we're phasing out, and then 1 on the new smart car that we recently purchased. We have the minutes for May and June. We've got monthly reports for the month of May. We've got the check register for the month of May. We have the council reports from Councilmembers Reimers and Hardy. We have a resolution for the purchase of a new police vehicle that was part of your CIP for this year, vehicle replacement program. We have appointing myself as the city's emergency services director and representing the city for reimbursement of disaster grant funds. We have a 9-month extension for the project that you previously approved, the new hotel, the Carmel Sands. by Mr. Stillwell, who's in the back of the gallery. We've got an adoption of a resolution accepting the donation of both the flooring materials and the installation for a new wood floor at the Indoor Forest Theater. We have a resolution entering into an agreement for the NGen radio system, which again, we have got a debt service on. We're awarding a free use stay for the Carmel International Film Festival on the October 19th, Thursday, October 19th. We have a resolution authorizing fund agreements for TAMC, which is related to Measure X and other items. We have a resolution entering into a contract with Digital Deployment for a new city website. I want to point out that Mr. Burkhart and Ms. Dore will be assisting us as we deal with the development of that new website and deployment. They're not doing it for free. We'll certainly be compensating them, but they're very, very familiar with our city, so they'll be involved in that process. They've generously volunteered to help us out. We're going to go ahead and declare one of those Go For parking scooters a surplus and get rid of it. They really are junky equipment. We're going to, we have our fiscal year appropriations limit. This is the GAN limit. This is a requirement that we basically, it's a state 1979 law that precludes us from, ironically enough, spending more than we take in tax revenue. We have a professional services agreement for Fasulo investigations for code compliance and Golden State Planning for some additional land use planning work while we get Ms. Waffle and up to speed. We have the current pay rates and salary ranges for the LIUNA employees. This is something we're actually required to do on a regular basis, and we haven't done it for years and years and years. We have the ratification of appointing Mrs. Mosley to the Community Human Services Board. And lastly, we have a authorization for me to execute a 3-month extension for Burkhart Dore for marketing services. And yes, and that's it, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. Is there any council members that need to abstain off of any items? Councilmember Ramos.
I must step aside and refrain from voting for number 8. The Sands of Justice I've already spoken to.
Okay, number 8. Anybody else?
I'm abstaining from number 9.
Number 9, Councilmember Hardy.
From number 8.
Councilmember Tyson, number 8. Anybody would like to pull any items?
Yes, I'd like to pull number 19.
Item 19 has been pulled. Any other council members would like to pull an item?
So if we're going to pull 19, then I'm going to have to recuse myself for, I don't want to be considered for any lack of, what's the word? Conflict of interest. Sorry.
Okay. Hold on one second, Bob.
You've got to wait for us to vote on the other
Is there anybody in the audience that would like to pull any item? So that's again, items 1 through 18 will be approved all in one motion. Anybody else want to pull any items? Seeing none, I will ask for a motion. Items 1 through 18, including the extensions that, as so noted in the minutes.
Move approval.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Now, item 19, now
Yeah.
Bobby will step out of the room.
I'd like to make a suggestion to item 19. Instead of, I've talked with Chip and the staff about this item. Instead of extending the contract for 3 months, I'd like to extend it for 6 months from July 1st through December 31st with an amount not to exceed $60,000 for the reason that we are just ramping up our marketing for the fall program. We want to continue that commitment. And secondly, this would give the staff more time for us to work on the RFP. So that's what I'm suggesting, that we make those changes.
And staff, you conclude with those assessments?
Yes, sir. We support this, and this is fully consistent with our purchasing policy. I spoke with Ms. Friedrichsen, and this is fine. We're in a new fiscal year, so we support this.
Councilmember Rivers.
Oh, I just want to say that when I read this, I question the short time because of the lead time that one has to do when you're working in this area of advertising and promotion. So I certainly agree with the suggestion.
And then I will turn to the general audience. Is there anybody wishing to speak on this item? Again, this is authorizing the city administrator to execute a professional service agreement with Burkhardt Duray Advertising Inc. for marketing service for a term from July 1st through December 31st, 2017, not to exceed $60,000. Yes. Amy.
Yes, I'd like to speak. Good afternoon, Mayor, Council. I'm Amy Herzog, Executive Director for Visit Carmel, and I'd like to speak in support of extending the contract with the city's agency through the end of the calendar year. As has been presented here in the past, together with the city's marketing funds in place, our mutual agency has created an integrated marketing plan to best serve our destination. The city's contract with Burkhardt Duray in turn supports the foundational elements on which much of Visit Carmel's marketing programs are based, including the visitor website, carmelcalifornia.com. The website highlights the visitors serving businesses in the village, including the shops and restaurants, promotes local events, and allows visitors to make real-time reservations. The city funds also support Carmel's social media platforms. Any disruption in these foundational marketing channels would have an incrementally negative effect on the marketing for the destination. Visit Carmel has begun implementation on some exciting and sophisticated new marketing initiatives, and our fall and winter programs and media buys are in progress. Therefore, we would encourage council to extend its agency contract to at least the end of the calendar year so as not to disrupt marketing programs already underway. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Anybody else wishing to speak on this item? Seeing none, I'll bring it back to council. Motion?
I move that we approve the extension of the professional service agreement with Burkhardt Duray Advertising for the term of July 1st through December 31st in the amount not to exceed $60,000.
I'll second that.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
And we will, Chip, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I
Forgot.
apologize to the gallery. We want to welcome Mr. Connors. We want to welcome, I apologize, but we want to welcome Mr. Connors. We're ready for Bobby to come back in if he.
Oh, yeah, Bobby.
He's about. But Mr. Connors was the city attorney in Monterey for a long duration. That's where, when I was just a pup, I met him originally. He works with Don Freeman currently. He's the city attorney in Atherton and other areas. He generously, he too volunteered to come and help us out because Don is in Hawaii. You got a free hat out of it, so
Take that off the bill.
welcome and thank you for your help, Mr. Connors.
Thank you. Okay, we will move on to orders of business. And the item number 20, SR 2017-108, consideration of resolution authorizing adoption of contract with G.R. Mazingo Esquire APC to serve as city attorney. Page 235 of our packet, and I will turn to Councilmember Ramers and Councilmember Hardy, who has put this staff report together.
Thank you. Carolyn and I decided I should start, and this has to do to recommend an adopt a resolution authorizing the mayor to execute a contract for legal services with Glenn R. Mazingo Esquire, APC, a professional corporation, as city attorney for the initial term July 15, 2017 to July 15, 2018. That would be the initial, just 1 year initially. Just as summary, I think everyone knows now that Don Freeman was kind enough and gracious to give the council a heads up and not a closing date of when he would like to retire from being the city attorney in Carmel-by-the-Sea. And it gave us the opportunity to do a thorough and lengthy review for candidates and to try to fit someone in who could take his place or at least be the new city attorney. And I do appreciate, I think we all appreciate very much that Don has given us that sort of timeline to take this step. The process we followed was to work with with our human resources, and first the council selected Carolyn and myself to be the ad hoc committee, and with help from the staff, we put out the request for qualifications and gave a somewhat lengthy time, 2 or 3 weeks, I think it was 2 weeks, to have the response from individuals or corporate or law firms that would be interested in serving as Carmel's city attorney. We were fortunate to receive 16 applications. We are fortunate in this community to have really talented and very well trained and educated people in the law industry and law firms. So we were fortunate to have that, and Carol and I both looked very carefully and closely at all of the applications, and the details are in the report. But we took our assignment very seriously and went over all of the reports. Some of them were individuals, some of them were individuals with an assistant, and some were firms that would like to have a primary attorney and the whole firm, so that we had the gamut to review. When we met, after a time to look over and read all of the applications, it turned out that Councilperson Hardy and myself chose the same applicants without having discussed in advance of our meeting. And I suggested then that they be invited to be interviewed by the entire council and our city administrator, and that interview took place, and all 3 candidates were interviewed, and they were asked the same questions, and it was done in a very straightforward and I think a very thorough way. And I feel the process was well planned and executed, and I'm very comfortable with the process because we shared every month, we shared with the community that we were moving forward on this exercise and this assignment. So I'm going to turn over to. What's that? Oh. Okay. And now Carolyn's going to say a few words.
Yeah.
That was our system or your phone, so we weren't sure.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I think it was important for the public to know that we went through quite a process here, and that we were as transparent as possible with reporting out every month with a brief report as to status. And there are some folks who've complained about transparency in this process when I don't think some of them understood that we needed to protect the interests of the city, that contracts such as this are not negotiated in public to jeopardize the city's position. But I did want to talk and speak to you about the experience of this candidate and the skills, and make a few comments about the character of the man. Mr. Mozingo's municipal involvement is wide and varied. He stood out as an excellent candidate because of his legal knowledge, his analytical approach, his attention to detail, his ability to communicate, his experience representing various cities in Southern California as special counsel, and his successes as a trial litigator. He was general counsel for a fire district in Sacramento. He's involved in legal matters that included CEQA, real estate, environmental issues, and hazardous waste, and compliance with general plans. And sometimes he was on the opposite side of the table representing clients in matters that came before the city. And so he saw it from both sides of the table. He has participated in redrafting modifications of recommendations for the Fair Political Practices Commission. And he holds a teaching credential, which should speak well to training of city staff and city officials as it's needed. Mr. Mozingo retired from his law firm and separated from his practice effective December 31st, 2016. So he will be able to devote his time to the city of Carmel. He happened to achieve a very high professional rating with Martindale-Hubbell, which is an independent national professional rating service that's highly regarded. And his rating is one that is awarded to the top 8% of the lawyers in the United States and Canada. Mr. Mozingo in the past had served on the Harrison Memorial Library Board of Trustees under 2 different mayors, city mayors. And Jan and I were given the direction to negotiate the contract. The council made the decision as to which candidate we were to negotiate with, and that's where we are in our report here with regard to scope of services. Before I turn it back over to Jan so she can talk a little bit about scope of services, I wanted to share a few comments with the public and with my fellow council members. Jan and I did check with the references that were listed in his application, and I wanted to share some of the comments that one of the references made. He said that Glenn Mozingo's history and experience is so impressive. His presence is so ethical. Having been a barrister in England, Mr. Mozingo, that brings a little more depth to the job, makes it a little more interesting. He's very detailed and he does not miss a trick. He's a great hire. He says, we wish we could hire him in Lakewood, California. And the man I spoke to happened to be a city council person in Lakewood, California. Mr. Mozingo gives good advice and he explains matters well in front of the public. He's an unbelievable lawyer, and this person also had personal and business legal matters that Mr. Mozingo handled for him. And so I think that speaks a lot, especially in some of our working with Mr. Mozingo on the SEC contracts. I found him to be extremely detail-oriented and focused and explain things well. And so my experience in working with him on those agreements bears out in this other man's references and the comments that were made about him. So now I'd like to turn it back to Jan, and she can talk about the scope of services that we negotiated in the contract.
Okay, thank you. Yes, we did. We looked at the contract that Don Freeman had, and we looked at the request for qualifications and what we were asking for in the new city attorney, and combined a good deal of that in working with the council in closed session to create the scope of services that we would want to have. And they're listed entirely in the paragraph here. I will just take the shorter terms, where the term begins the 15th of July 2017, and it's expected to run for 1 year, but we really do expect it to be a 3-year commitment. But there will be reviews at 3 months and 6 months and 1 year, and after that there'll be a 1-year review. But we do want to be sure that it's difficult to understand and try to pinpoint how many hours this person will be working, and so we need to have the reviews to be sure that we're in the right area and that we've made the right estimates on the time frame that we're expecting from the city attorney. So that will be part of the review process. And the general counsel retainer will be $13,000 per month. That number needs to be mentioned because that is a contract salary that we have arranged with Mr. Mozingo. In Don Freeman's contract, he was also paid Social Security and Medicare and medical, and so that is not going to be the case in this. This is strictly a contract, not an employee, but a contract that we have with Mr. Mozingo, and he will be responsible for those fees himself. So there's a little difference when you're looking at the numbers, and that need to be, I think, to be clarified. Extraordinary service, like law, going to representing us in the court of law, that sort of thing would be hourly $275. And then clerical is written in here as well. And the performance reviews I did mention with 3, 6, and 12 months. So he is being paid as an independent contractor, and we are very excited to have him. As Carolyn mentioned, he was very, very helpful with the communication and the contract with Sunset Center. I did speak, as she mentioned, to references, and I'll just be quick about it. Excellent communicator, explains both sides of the situation clearly and suggests the best way to proceed. This person, both of the people I spoke with, highly recommend him as our choice. One just said one of the best attorneys. Personable, thorough, caring, and neither one had any reservations in recommending, and this one person has recommended Mr. Mozingo a number of times when people have asked for a reference for an attorney. So we are going to be in very good hands, and we present this candidate to the council.
Thank you, Jan. Thank you, Carolyn. Any other questions or comments from the council before we go out to the general public?
Save my comments for after.
Okay.
I think I'll save my comments till after public comment.
Okay, I will ask anybody, member of the public, that wish to speak on this matter, please step forward. Mr. Stillwell.
I just want to say Mark Stillwell for the record. I've been through now 3 recent search processes, one for the Carmel Unified Superintendent, one for the Carmel Chamber CEO, and one for our own kids mental health charity, Youth Aim for Mental Health, for operational director. And after hearing the process you went through, I really want to comment on the process. I think it was outstanding. That's exactly what you need to do, and you've really done your homework, and I just wanted to state that for the record because I was very impressed when I heard that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Mr. Rose.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, Madam Clerk, and I, of course, have to especially recognize Chip Rary, the only individual I've ever crawled to, literally, on my hands and knees and begged him to come to Carmel. And of course, Chief Tomasi. And Bill Connors is an old friend as well. Thank you for coming, Bill. I've known Glenn Mozingo for more than a decade. I've always found him to be a man of the highest integrity. He's bright as a whip, and he's a heck of a nice guy. But I have an unusual knowledge of Mr. Mozingo because I have actually litigated against him. And you really get the measure of somebody when you fight them. And I can tell you that after fighting Mr. Mozingo for a fairly long period of time, I came away with nothing but respect and positive feelings about him. He's all the things that Carolyn and Jan said about him and more. He's thoughtful, he's caring, he cares enormously about the Monterey Peninsula and its people. And I can tell you from having served 10 years on this council, as you know, or some of you know, and it's a complicated job. I mean, you look at Bill Connors and you may not think so, but the man.
There's a story.
Let me just say that it takes a special talent to do what Glenn Mozingo can do, and I wholly and heartily recommend him and thank him for his prior service already for the Monterey Peninsula. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rose. Anybody else wishing to speak? Seeing none, I will bring it back to council. Councilmember Richards.
I guess I'd first like to start off with saying thank you to the other 15 applicants that applied. I know that filling out a resume is a lot of time, effort, energy, and it's not really a fun thing to do. So thank you to those 16 people. Fortunately, with all due respect, Mark, Clyde, Gerard, I've never had to interview an attorney for myself. So I didn't really know what kind of questions to ask or how that process should work. I'm so thankful that Jan and Carolyn took this on because they did an outstanding job. They were really dedicated to the process, and I'm thrilled with where we are. What I did do, though, for my piece of the homework was I went home when I found out that we were going to have to be part of the interview for the final few. And I said, what would I want? What do I need up here as a councilman? And so I wrote down a few things. One of the things I knew that I needed was a person that could steer me in the right direction. As you know, this is a new territory for me, being on city council. And often I look over with needing guidance, like, am I supposed to say this? Am I supposed to do that? And so I needed somebody up here that I could trust and have confidence in. I needed an attorney that is local and available because, more than once I've called Don and asked him to meet me for a cup of coffee or something like that for some advice, or what am I doing right? What am I doing wrong? Give me some constructive criticism. So I felt it was important to have somebody local here. I want someone who'll go after the biggest, what I see the biggest problem facing Carmel-by-the-Sea, and that's short-term rentals. That's going to be a big problem for us in the future, I believe. And so I needed somebody that can handle that and really fight for us with that. It is important that our city has a person that knows and understands the values our citizens hold important. While understanding is a necessity, believing them is vital. And that's right with that short-term rental. They really have to understand what we're trying to protect and what we're fighting for. The next thing was I was hoping that for an approachable person, somebody you may see at a restaurant or at a show at the Golden Bough or around town, that not necessarily to ask legal advice, but to say hi and know, so he knows the court, he knows the home court, and we know him and we can feel comfortable with that. The other one I wanted was somebody with unwavering dedication to the council as well as to our city and holding our values strong. With this choice, that's what I'm thrilled about. This choice, I think that we got all of the things that I wanted hit. I know Glenn personally. He's a really nice guy. And in fact, at the 4th of July, I introduced him to my girlfriend, and she said, man, what a nice guy, like right off the bat. But he has a certain authority, and he really instills a lot of confidence. So that's why I'm thrilled to go along with recommending Glenn Mozingo as our city attorney.
Thank you, Bobby. Any other comments?
Yes?
Yes, Vice Mayor.
In a lot of ways, we've been spoiled for 33 years of not having to make this decision. And working with somebody like Don, who is dedicated to our city and really liked being involved. And similar to Bobby, I really try to stay away from lawyers. That's my philosophy.
Sorry, Mark, Gerard, Bob.
Bill moves aside. Yeah. So it was really with great respect and relief that Jan and Carolyn took on this very serious task, and we took it very seriously because we haven't had to do this in 33 years. So what did I consider? Of course, when we choose a city attorney, and of course we're looking at their experience with law and with government and with cities, but I think we also want to take other things into consideration. And one of those was he had to be local, he had to be accessible. And you know, I'm not gonna, we had some great applicants, but they were from out of the area. And then you get into travel costs, and you get into, you know, maybe we want somebody down here for the Planning Commission meeting on a short notice. So I was definitely looking for somebody accessible. I also wanted somebody that was gonna focus, their true focus was just gonna be Carmel. I know that's a little selfish, because there are firms, but really having somebody much like Don who could focus their time on just Carmel was very great to have somebody like Glenn that can do that. He's retired, he's looking forward to serving this community because he loves it so much. He did not practice law here. So some people say, well, we don't know Glenn. Well, actually, from my perspective, that's an advantage. He doesn't have any local clients that he is been committed to. So from my standpoint, he doesn't have any loyalty to any clients here in Carmel. And so I think that's an advantage. He does not own any property in Carmel-by-the-Sea, and there's been several times where we've had to have Don recuse himself because of that factor. So Glenn lives just outside the city limits. So conflicts of interest are going to be lessened because of those 2 points. And then with talking with Glenn, his philosophy of trying to take care of issues before they become problems was really stood out for me. So I worked with Glenn when we were working on the SCC contract. his attention to detail and his willingness to get into the nut of a document and keep the city's interest in mind was very impressive. So I did have the privilege of kind of test casing this Mr. Mozingo, and it was really great working with him. I think in the negotiations, I think he can be maybe Sunset Center board can attest to this, a tough negotiator, which I think was going to be very good for the city. So I really, with a lot of thought and process, I really appreciate the time that Carolyn and Jan have put into this, and also the rest of the council. That's why it took several months to make this decision. This was not something that we were going to do quickly. So I heartily support having, and I look forward to working with Glenn in the near future.
Well, I just wanted to thank Councilmember Ramers and Councilmember Hardy for all their hard work and dedication. It took a long process to get to this point. And for what Bobby's comments and Councilmember Tyson's comments, I think what's really important is you've heard from two people tonight. One that was a school board, still a current school board member, that clearly stated the process of how we've put this together and how well it worked. And then a 10-year council member that stood up and attested to Mr. Mozingo's qualities. And there's one other thing. We don't have one person here today that spoke against this. I don't think anything that I can remember. I mean, when we're talking about little tree stumps, that no one's complained. And you know, this is a wonderful, wonderful day, I think, that we have here in the city of Carmel-by-the-Sea. And I know it's, you know, it's like when we picked Chip Rearick. We knew his heart and soul was in it. And I believe Mr. Mozingo's heart and soul is in this community. And that's what it takes. You can have great lawyers, like there's 3 of them out here tonight. But it's the heart and soul and the love for this community and this team building, working together as a team to make this village even better for the next generation. And I just wanted to thank this council, our city administrator, our city attorney, Don Freeman, for all the hard work that he's done in 33 years to balance all that. We have some good stopgaps, 3, 6, and 12 months reviews, so you'll be seeing those here on the council shortly. And very excited to have Mr. Mozingo representing our city now and into the future. So thank you. Yes?
I just did not mention that this council has asked Don Freeman to continue for probably 2 months. That's our estimated time for transition. With the knowledge that he has and skills that we've asked him to stay on, and he's agreed to do that.
Yeah. I'd like to add a couple of last comments also. I'm grateful that Don is willing to stay on for a little while longer to help with the transition, and for 33 years, he's a wealth of historical knowledge and background that Mr. Mozingo will certainly benefit from as we transition into the new city attorneys. There was a letter that was sent to council that was up here on the dais from one of the residents that says, I'm writing to ask a simple question. Is Mr. Mozingo the best choice for our new city attorney? And I'd have to say emphatically, yes.
Thank you. Any further comments? Seeing none, I will ask for a motion in a second, and I would probably ask to turn to my right because they've done so much work. I would ask for a motion to come from my right side.
Well, we were thinking
Okay,
someone
well,
else
ask
because
for my left.
we're the
Okay.
committee that we are presenting, so.
Yeah, I'm happy to make a motion to adopt a resolution authorizing the mayor to execute a contract for legal services with Glenn R. Mozingo, Esquire, APC, as a city attorney for the initial term of July 15, 2017 to July 15, 2020.
It's 2018. That was a
Oh.
typo. My bad.
Oh, sorry, 2018.
2018. Thank you.
That's right, it's for 1 year.
Right.
Yes.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
It has been moved and seconded Any further discussion? We will have a roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Richards?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Tice?
Yes.
Councilmember Hardy?
Yes.
Councilmember Ramers?
Yes.
Mayor Dallas?
Yes.
Passes unanimously.
So, Mr. Mozingo, welcome to being our new city attorney starting in a few days. How many days? 4. He loves the days. So 4 days, Mr. Mozingo, we'll see you here at the office. Thank you. Saturday. 24/7, right, Chip? 24/7. Okay. We will move on to item number 21, SR 2017-109. Receive recommendations from Planning Commission on Ocean Avenue medium lighting and direct staff to proceed with project page 263 of our staff report and our new monitor's work.
Can you go down one slide, Ashley?
I can't control it from here. If you want to drag the laptop on to sit on the podium, we're still.
Okay, I got it. Thanks. Yeah, thank you, Mayor, members of the City Council. So lighting along the Ocean Avenue median has been a focus of the city over the past several years. This is quite a bit louder. In 2012, the City Council amended the city's lighting policy to allow year-round lighting on the Ocean Avenue median. Previously, it was only allowed during the holiday periods. And then in 2014, the City Council directed the Planning Commission to study different lighting options for the median and to report back, and that's why I'm here tonight. So the Planning Commission took that directive and they appointed a subcommittee, and Council Member Ramers was actually one of the members on that subcommittee. And it was a real interesting process. It involved bringing in some outside people that had lighting expertise, and we even had a workshop at which point we went out to the medians, and there were various treatments that the committee and several members of the public viewed at nighttime and made some decisions about which lighting looked best. So the subcommittee reported back to the Planning Commission, and then the Planning Commission made a recommendation to the City Council. And the Planning Commission's recommendation was that the city obtain a lighting design professional to continue working on this process, and that we do 3 treatments of the Ocean Avenue median. So one median would just be repairing and maintaining the existing lighting for evaluation. A second median would have 2 types of lights, and one is a champagne-colored LED mini light, and the other would be a LED uplight in that one median. And the third could be the lighting designer's choice. And one of the issues when we had that workshop where we had all the different lighting options, there may have been too many options at that time, and it was hard to kind of distinguish which one had what effect and how they looked. So it was narrowed down to these 3, and this recommendation was never formally presented to the City Council, even though this work was done in 2015. So that's what we're doing tonight. It's in the city's City Council CIP. We have $30,000 of funding for lighting design work and for the installation. So any leftover funds from the design work could be used for the actual installation. And staff's recommendation is, sorry, don't need the slide, is that you direct staff to proceed with the project and obtain a lighting design professional to work on this. Yeah. We would work with the Planning Commission on this, and the Planning Commission would filter it down to final selection, and we bring that back to the City Council to choose the final lighting design for the Ocean Avenue median.
Can we get to your next slide, Mark? Let's see if this system works.
It works. I just accidentally.
Take your time. We have all night.
Do we have the 3 dots? We don't. So as part of the workshop, and maybe Councilman Richards was there, there's a green dot exercise where people voted on the different. It's not, but it's.
We took it a little further than the green dots.
So yeah, that was part of the voting system for the process, and it was a really good process. Unfortunately, there was a gap in between then and you reviewing it tonight, but it's a worthwhile process, and we look forward to taking it back up.
Thank you, Mark. Any questions of our staff? Okay, seeing none, I will go out to the general public and ask any member of the general public that wish to speak on this item if you could please step forward. Barbara.
Yeah, hi. Barbara Livingston. I'd like to ask Mark, median 1, which is to update and adjust the existing lighting, does that also include looking at the lighting that has been buried or in the ground for all these years and never used? Because I always thought how odd that we didn't get an electrician, for instance, in there to see exactly what needs to be done to the existing lighting we have in the ground, use various and sundry different bulbs or light globes or whatever, and test that out because it's already there. So why spend a lot of money on a lighting consultant before testing actually with an electrician or somebody what we already have? It doesn't make sense to me. So I just want to bring that to your attention. Thank you.
Thank you, Barbara. Anybody else? Really? Wow. Okay. Kenny? No? David? Of course, Richard. Sure. Come on out.
You need some.
I gotta
just want to make sure the
because we gotta
lights.
get, Richard's
Yeah,
gotta
right.
get it,
You were asking for somebody. That the lights do that we should get the lights that illuminate the arch with a bulb in them. They're there to begin with. And so what I'm saying is we will review, the Planning Commission will review these options. The community will be able to discuss the options. Okay, that's fine.
I thought he was going to mention that he was going to take an extension cord from all his lights and put it on us. Okay, anybody else wishing to speak? Okay, seeing none, we will bring it back to council.
Just have one
Yes.
comment, Mr. Mayor, if I may. This is a little bit of obviously a dated recommendation,
right?
And we apologize for bringing it forward so late, kind of in the game. Median 2, it talks about wattage and LED. Those are two terms that are not synonymous with each other. Councilmember Hardy pointed that out to me yesterday. So the punchline is that we're going to be looking for a temperature range, again, and Mr. Harari can help out on this because this is something that he did in Monterey, in the National Historic Landmark District, where he came up with a temperature range for that district, both in private and public lighting. But we can don't get caught up in these numbers. We'll certainly find something in the fall so everybody can be involved, as Mr. Kreitman suggests, that is most appropriate for the village.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
I appreciate you clarifying this is not only for design work, but also the installation, because that was one of my concerns. In the past, the lighting up of the crosswalks was very much a big topic. And lighting has, even in the few years that have spanned since we started this, or the last time we talked about it, lighting has changed tremendously. So I would expect that there would be different options available. So I am looking forward to addressing this issue and having a uniform look on Ocean Avenue. So thank you for bringing it forward.
Richards.
Yeah, so if we put $30,000 towards this, I would hope that we can focus most of that money on either the repair of what we have and or installation of the new. But as far as the design work, we had so much design work last time around, and Meredith Knoll, she was terrific. I don't know if she would be willing to come back and help us out, but I would like that we at least ask some of our local residents that are experts in some of these fields to help us and maybe help guide us with that, so that we're not spending the bulk of that $30,000 on design when we have somebody that was willing to help us in the past.
Councilmember Ramers.
Yes, I was very much involved and had absolutely no interest at all in what kind of lighting we had on the median, and that changed very quickly when I saw all the options that are open to us, and they've even changed now. We don't well, anyway, there are other options and other ideas to be able to get light up into the treetops, and there are also ways of doing the uplighting, which, as she pointed out, we should think of our trees as sculptures. So when we're lighting the median, we're actually focusing on the trees as sculptures, especially those that have interesting branches and really can be highlighted in that way. And I liked that concept a lot when I heard her talking about that. I would like what Mr. Kreitman said, have to start first with just get the bell lighted. It was absolutely wonderful to see the light, and it was a soft light, and it was, I think the electrical is there. I do not believe it would be a high-cost item, and I would like to have this council consider at least doing that, because it was stunning to see that. Also, we don't need to have, for samples, we don't need to have each median updated or changed. We could actually use sections of the medians to give the idea of the uplighting for the trees and give any of the mini lights in the trees. We could do that in a section of one median and a section of another and another. So we're not spending a lot of money on the sample way of doing it. I think we could consider that. And I guess that's it. I had something else that may come back to me. I am happy to see that this is going forward, because I think we can do something really lovely. Oh, I know. The downlighting for the sidewalks was very, very important in the discussions, although it didn't get into the minutes particularly, but it was in the discussions. And the walkway, the mid-block walkways came out as a very important consideration and concern. And a member of the audience there suggested we put a potted urn plant, clay plant, something in the median walkways between the blocks, because it's dark and there are people running out in the evening between cars and the blocks. It's just a surprise to anyone who's driving, and there was a concern that I think we need to consider whether or not action should be taken when we're looking at the total picture here.
Councilmember Hardy.
I should have asked this question earlier, but I'm seeing it here in the recommendation that's on our screen. And I'm curious why we're limiting it to 3 medians, because we certainly have more blocks of median strip than 3. So I was curious about that.
That was just, those would be the samples for people to look at. And then my understanding is that from the workshops is that we would do the sample lighting treatments in 3 different ways. And then the one that seemed to be the most attractive that people really preferred would go the full length.
I thought that experiment had already happened.
No, it happened. I'm sorry, do you mind if I end? Okay, it happened in that we had a range of things. We even had a laser going up, and we had a street lamp, and that's where we started, and then it toned down to these fewer choices.
Okay.
Lesser.
Well, I'm encouraged. I like to see this move along too. And I think, I'm hoping that the Planning Commission, when they review design options, that they also take into consideration some of the landscaping that could affect the lighting. There might have to be some adjustments to landscaping. I find particularly the landscaping at the end of the median, where we're so concerned about people walking across the crosswalks. Because of the growth of the landscaping, it blocks the view of seeing a pedestrian walk, unless you pull closer into the crosswalk itself, and then you can see. So it isn't just a matter of lighting and illuminating, it's cutting back some of the landscaping at the ends of the median strips to open up the view of people crossing the street. So I'm hoping that as we give some direction and authorize staff to proceed, that might be one of the suggestions taken back to the Planning Commission as they consider their design options. So it isn't just, obviously the focus is lighting, but it may affect some of the landscaping as well in the design.
Just a question of staff. Will you all be doing the testing, put it together, and then bring it to the Planning Commission? Is that how you're thinking? Yes. Okay.
At some of those meetings, I know that there was one thing that everybody agreed on, that was the safety in the crosswalk. And this is my question though, Chip, maybe that you could have public safety help on, is if we light up the cut-throughs, will that encourage people to use them more? Or should we leave them dark and people to use them with a little bit more danger factor, but hopefully they won't be brought out to their attention? I don't know the answer to that.
I think of those cut-throughs as an uncontrolled intersection, because once you walk through them, you're almost right in the traffic lane, and vehicles are not expecting you to just pop out like that. So my first blush response, Mr. Mr. Richards, would be that we leave them dark and we light with some kind of a tulip fixture that downlights, fully shielded, so it's directing the light down so you can see where you're walking, just the traditional crosswalks.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
So,
I'll make the motion that we authorize staff to proceed with obtaining the services of a lighting professional to carry out the design work on the Ocean Avenue medians.
Design and installation.
And design and installation.
I'll second that.
okay, it's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? I think what I'm hearing, though, is I just want to make it very clear. We don't want
No.
the staff to come back to the council and ask for any more money. It's an all-in bid.
We don't just want a design for $30,000. We want a product for $30,000.
Is that correct?
Correct. Yeah, that's
Hardy?
Yeah.
Ramers?
Yes, I
Good.
just want to share with you that I have a file, and part of my file.
Jan's got her file from 5 years ago.
But this is really, I hadn't even looked at it. The purpose is review the lighting, but it goes on to goals, safety, observations, procedures, and comments. So I actually kept minutes myself. I'll share them. It might be.
That'd be great. You
There
can
might be a jewel here.
You can share that with Chip, and I'm sure he'd be more than happy to share that with Paul, Mark, and Bob. Sharon, you're okay, and Maxine, you're safe on this one. So, okay. We will do a roll call vote on this also.
Councilmember Richards.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Tice.
Yes.
Councilmember Hardy.
Yes.
Councilmember Ramers.
Yes.
Mayor Dallas.
Yes.
I don't know if you heard my yes. My microphone was off. I've got to get used to turning it on.
We will move on to the last item on
Adopted
today's
unanimously.
agenda, SR 2017110, consideration of the adoption of resolution rescinding council policy C89-41, acceptance of donations and gifts to the city, and the adoption of a resolution adopting council policy C17-02, donation and gift policy, and the adoption of a resolution adopting council policy C1703, bench donation guideline, and it's on page 271. And we will have a staff report, please, from Mr. Wright.
Mayor, members of council. So this is before you this evening in an effort to continue to clean up some of our policies that need cleaning up. So in 1989, we had kind of a big policy manual adoption update. Policy C8941 governed, it was actually originally adopted in 1988 and then readopted in 1989. It governed the acceptance of donations and was amended over the years to include the bench donation policy. The current policy lists the dollar threshold for necessitating formal council acceptance at $1,000. Donors are recognized on the scroll of donors for donations over $1,000, which is something that fell out of practice in 2008 and has not been kept up since then. It stipulates that the review of art or art-related donations be reviewed by the Carmel Art Board for recommendation to the council for acceptance, and included the guidelines for the bench donations. What is proposed is that policy be rescinded, and a new policy is before you this evening that is a little more robust with the acceptance of donations. It will maintain the $1,000 value threshold that you will need to formally accept gifts. The practice of the scroll of donors, we can maintain that, but that will be at donor request only. We won't automatically be putting the engraved plates up out on the scroll of donors in the lobby. It removes reference to the Carmel Art Board, which has not been in commission since 2006. It separates out the bench donations policy, which is really a separate program completely from donations. It is a type of donation, but it is a separate policy. For donations less than $1,000, donors will receive an acknowledgement and thank you letter from either the city administrator or his designee. So that's where we are with that policy. And then just a quick update on the bench donation program. For those who aren't familiar with it, this allows citizens to donate or sponsor a bench, which is either new or existing in the city, and that includes the placement of a commemorative plaque on the bench. Donations, which is a $750 donation, covers the purchase of the benches, which are installed and maintained by the city through their lifetime. Donors must live in Carmel-by-the-Sea or sphere of influence, or the donation must be made to commemorate somebody or memorialize someone who has lived in Carmel-by-the-Sea or the sphere of influence. And this is a program that's been very successful. It is administered by the Planning Department and by the Public Works Department together. So that's where we are with that. So I'd like to keep that as a separate policy from the donations policy.
Thank you, Ashley. Any questions for Ashley?
I do have a question, and that is the arts bit has been taken away from, my concern is there an arts policy, and if so, what is that, or do we need to address that?
There is an art policy currently, and I apologize for not knowing the policy number off the top of my head, but we do have a policy that governs the acceptance of art and what is in our collection, and it is used for accepting donations, but also deaccessioning items as well. And actually, thank you for bringing this up, Jana. I spoke with former Mayor McLeod this afternoon, and she suggested that in addition to the form that I presented to you for the acceptance of donations, we have one specific to tangible items like artwork. And so I informed her that it's my understanding the local history department is reworking their donor acceptance form, and I would like to work with the local history department to develop one specifically for items coming to the council like artworks.
Well, thank you, and I apologize for not asking you in advance. I usually try to give a heads up, but thank you for your, I think it is an important thing to proceed with. Thanks.
On the slide before, what was it? The lifetime of the bench? Was it?
The lifetime, yes. So it's the lifetime of the bench. There's a deposit account for the maintenance of our benches. So anything that needs to be fixed. But yes, the lifetime of the bench. So basically, it did put donation, but it is kind of you're sponsoring a bench for its lifetime until it's no longer. And if a bench has fallen apart completely, what the option is to return the engraved plaque to the original donor. If they can still be contacted, they can sponsor the bench and redonate. But once the lifespan of the bench is over, then a new bench will be put in its place.
Okay, so it's kind of a
yeah. So for
deal.
instance, it's Scenic Drive it's the most popular spot for donating benches, sponsoring benches, and currently there's a waiting list. I think there's 4 people on the waiting list the last time I checked in with Matt in the Public Works Department. So there's a rolling list. There are plenty of opportunities throughout the city and other places for placements of new benches or sponsors of existing benches, but for obvious reasons, Scenic Drive is very popular.
Yeah. Thank you.
Any other questions, Ashley? Okay. Seeing none, I will bring it out to the general public. Anybody in the general public that would like to speak on this matter? No? Okay. We will bring it back to the council. I just had one question, and I know the only question is that $1,000 threshold. It hasn't been touched in so many years, and maybe we should consider going up a little higher so it doesn't always have to come back to the council. If you hit the $1,000, it comes to the council. $1,000, it comes to the council. So I was just throwing it out there, maybe $2,500 or something, whatever. I just don't want to continually taking staff's time for $1,000 donation.
Can I speak to that, Mayor?
Yes, please.
As I did my research on donation policies that cities throughout California employed, there was a wide range of donation thresholds. I mean, they went up to, and those were related to the size of the city, what kind of capital campaigns they had going on. So it went as high as, I think, $25,000. The midline range was $10,000 before it appeared before council. So we can definitely raise that threshold if you so choose. It wouldn't be out of keeping with what other cities are doing.
So just trying to hit the median. So what's the pleasure of the council?
Well, I'd like to say thank you to Ashley for all this good work. It's nice to see old policies being retired when they need to be and refreshed with new approaches. So I appreciate that on the staff's part. I'm for the change. I'd be ready to make a motion.
I also appreciate Ashley doing the history and keeping us up to date on things. So thank you. I think that's great suggestions, obviously well researched. So $1,000 threshold, I think I'd be willing to go up to $2,500 on that one.
Does everybody come? I mean, it's up to you. I just don't want to make sure that remember, our time is
Well,
limited.
I know, but I see it coming through as a consent item when we approve gifts like that, so I don't have a feeling one way or the other particularly. If the majority wants to increase that gift to $2,500, I don't have an objection.
Oh, I'm sorry. Can I say that?
Yeah.
I actually went back and did some more research on the, strangely enough, so we receive 3 to 5 donations per year, roughly, according to the board out there and all the resolutions we've had since this policy was adopted. The median amount for us was $2,500. So it ranged from $1,000 to, but $2,500 was the number that I saw most frequently.
Well,
And I did not talk to Ashley about that, I can tell you. So, what's the pleasure?
Okay, so I will move to adopt a resolution rescinding the old policy C-8941. I would move that we adopt a resolution for instituting the policy C-1702 donation and gift policy. And in that policy, make the revision of the floor of $1,000, move it up to $2,500 for gift acceptance by the council. And I would move that we adopt a resolution for adopting the policy C-1703 regarding bench donations guidelines.
Is there a second? And just for clarification, is that also for donor recognition on the scroll donor donations of over $2,500?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Does everybody understand the motion? Okay. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Councilmember Richards?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Tice?
Yes.
Councilmember Hardy?
Yes.
Councilmember Ramers?
Yes.
Mayor Dallas?
Yes.
Adopted
We'll
unanimously.
go on to the very last item, future agenda items. Any member of the general public wishing to ask about a future agenda item? Seeing none. Any council member?
I
Yes.
do.
You go
Uh-oh.
first. You go. Okay. I would request that we add the North Dunes restoration update and review of the work that needs attention going forward as an agenda item. And the primary concern I have is that we use the money that's been allocated, use it wisely, and I would like for the council to understand clearly how the money is going to be used before it's allocated. So for that reason, I would like to have an update and review the process. Go forward.
I have several requests. One would be that the council set a workshop for goal setting, which is different from our work program, which is different from some of the other objectives. I don't think the council set any visionary goals in a long time. That might be something that might need to be facilitated. I would like to see the city council set a workshop to be updated on the progress of the Mission Trail Nature Preserve activities. The Forest and Beach Commission and Planning Commission know a little more than we do. I'd like the council to be brought up to speed. They've approved a baseline assessment, and the Planning Commission has approved the coastal development permit, and I would like just some updates, and maybe it would be good to bring in Nikki Nadoff, who's the consulting ecologist, and she could, it would just be a good workshop opportunity to maybe look at what some of the priorities could be, should be with regard to Mission Trail. And my particular concern with Mission Trail would be the fuel load reduction, and that's part of the assessments in the CDP, I think. I'd also like an update at one of our council meetings where we are on our priorities work project list to see, because I know that we're accomplishing a lot, and so we might see if there is room for adding to the work list, but it may be that, you know, we're making progress and need to just focus on what's there. So those are my requests.
Thank you for your 3 requests, as well as Councilmember Ember's 1 request. we will take it under advisement. We're meeting tomorrow? No, next Thursday. It will not be on the August agenda, I can tell you that already. But I wanted to thank Joel. Everything has worked perfectly. So at 6:04, the meeting has been adjourned. See, I want to make sure that time clock stopped, buddy. See, 6:04. Huh, Bob? Make sure your microphone's off.